Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Johnson Crow, and I am here today with Drew Smith, who is the co host of the Genealogy Guys podcast and also the author of Organize Your Genealogy, published by Family Tree Books. And Drew, it's all that organizing that I want to talk about
Oh, right.
because we all have the smartphone, we have the tablets, we have our laptops, we have so much digital stuff. Where do we even begin to organize it?
That is a tough question. It's different than organizing paper. You see the paper. The trouble with digital materials is they're kind of invisible unless you go looking at them.
Mhm.
And so, you don't have that pressure that you often do when people see those stacks in your home. They don't know what you've got hidden away on your computer.
Right.
So I think what you have to do is you first have to create a structure on your computer systems, but whether it's a tablet, whether it's a smartphone, you have to think about, what do I want as a digital structure for my materials? You create that, and then you move the things you have into that structure. So it's like building a new house that, and then you have all the other things. And now this is your opportunity to move all the things from the old house that were kind of a mess into the brand new house. It's empty and everything can have its right place.
Everything can have its right place. So, how do we think about, and this is probably an unfair question, but is there a right way to organize it?
There are many right ways to organize it.
I was hoping that that would be your answer.
One of the things I want people to understand is there's not one right way. And the different right ways depend on your personality. They depend on what you're trying to accomplish. And they depend on really what you feel you can do. So what I want people to do is understand general organizing principles. I don't say, Amy, you're doing this wrong. You're doing, but I said, here are some principles that if you kind of follow these guidelines, whatever system you come up with, this is going to help you organize. You may find that you want to tweak it to work in a certain way for you because that's your personality. That's how you work. Some people work differently than others. They have their own way of doing things. It's like when you see someone's desk at work, and some people have more stacks than others, and some people say, that works for me. Same thing with your digital stuff too. And so the ultimate system is going to depend on things like what's your project? What is it you're trying to accomplish? Are you doing a one-name study? Are you studying a surname all the way back in time? Are you doing all your ancestors? Are you doing DNA? You have to think about what structure will accommodate that. But there are some principles. And one of the things as a librarian I think about a lot is you want to design your system so it's both searchable and browsable.
Okay.
Because those are the two main ways that people really get information. I tell people, if you don't quite get the concept between search and browse, think about a book. Most books have both a table of contents and they have an index. An index is very useful if you know exactly what you're looking for, that word, that thing. You want to find exactly where in the book it is, and then you go right to it. With a table of contents, that's when you're not sure exactly what you're looking for. You just want some general ideas about something. You read the whole section or chapter to find the information you need. And you might not even have a certain word or name you're looking for. So the same thing happens with both your paper files, but certainly with your digital files. You want to be able to do finds, and fortunately computers are great at searching for information, but you also have times when you want to browse the information on your computer.
Right.
You want to say, I'm going to see all the files that pertain to my great-grandfather that I have at once. Because the nice thing about browsing information is as you go through that information, you go, oh, I'm missing him in the 1900 census. I'm missing his marriage record. Searching would never really told you that. You needed to see all the records in front of you and see where the gaps were.
Exactly. So let's say that we have a situation in my family where my dad used to take slides, hundreds and hundreds of slides. And as I have been digitizing them, because yeah, it's fun to project the slides on the wall, but how many people can you fit in the family room?
Right.
So been digitizing them. What are some suggestions that you might have for someone who is digitizing some old slides or some old family photos so that we can do that both searching and browsing?
Well, you need to think about how are you probably going to access that material in the future? Are you going to access it by a time period? Are you going to access it by a family group or a family name? Are you going to access it by a location that you want to see all the slides that pertain to South Carolina or all the slides that pertain to New Jersey? So that's going to dictate then how you're going to organize this material if you can think about the different ways you might need to access it. So as you are digitizing and you are naming your files as you scan them, you're going to want to do things like maybe name them not only with a surname or an individual name, maybe with a time frame like a decade or a year if you happen to know it, and then maybe a location if you happen to know the state or the country or the county or the town, because that will enable you first to search for that information. And then think about the structure where you're going to put those. How are you going to organize them in a folder for everything from South Carolina, everything from 1910, everything from the Smith family.
Right.
And so that's going to be personal, because how you access it would be very different from someone else.
Yeah. When it comes to names, and you mentioned the family name, is it really necessary to go and give that person a name, or can we just say, because it feels a little weird to name a file when it's your grandfather and say this is Stanley Johnson. It feels kind of, I don't know, it feels kind of weird to call your grandfather by his first name, but it sounds like for a discoverability standpoint, you really do need to not call him grandpa in the file name.
Yeah, that's going to be tough if you say grandpa.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to want to say Johnson, Stanley, 1905, South Carolina, or something like that, maybe death, or if depending on what the file is. So if it's a birth record, a marriage record, a death record, maybe that's in the file name too. That
Okay.
gives you a better idea, again, when you're browsing, what do I have on him? I have a birth record, I have a death record, I have a census record. And yeah, you sort it because you're going to probably sort by a surname and then by the first name.
Right.
The worst thing, of course, is when we have ancestors that they like names so much they gave them every generation the same name.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to throw in a little more information sometimes, a middle name, a middle initial, maybe a location, because we have different family people with the same name, but they lived in different states. You can add that. You can, there's no harm in having long file names. That's perfectly fine.
Right. Yeah, I think for those of us who remember the days of the 8 characters that we were limited to in our file names.
Those IBM file names,
Yeah,
yes, I know.
go ahead and make
Yep.
those long file names. Drew, if people want to find out more information about you or your Genealogy Guys podcast, where can they go?
They can go to genealogyguys.com. They will find both the Genealogy Guys podcast and Genealogy Connection, which is a new interview format for genealogy podcasting. And they can find out a little bit more about our books and other things that we do.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining me today, Drew. You have given us so much that will help us get all of those digital files under control.
Thank you for having me, Amy.
And if you would like to find out more about genealogy tips and tricks, I hope that you follow me over on my blog over at amyjohnsоncrow.com.